Marketplace is supported by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is looking for individuals who want to join an inclusive and unique culture. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers.
It's Friday, so we're going to do that thing that we do. Then we'll talk dollar, stores, and then we'll head out for a bite to eat to wrap things up. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Bitwarden, a password manager for business designed to help turn end-of-year IT budgets into long-term enterprise security success. Learn more at bitwarden.com.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Ryssdal. It is Friday, today the 13th of September. Good as always to have you along, everybody. We are just going to start, if that's all right with you. Amara Mokwe's at Bloomberg. Courtney Brown is at Axios. Hey, you two.
Hey, Kai.
So let's start with inflation, which we learned this week thanks to the CPI and also the PPI, the producer price index. It is doing what it is supposed to do. And thus, we can pretty much stipulate here, because Jay Powell has all but said it, that there is going to be a rate cut when the Fed meets next week. Amara, I want to start with you, and I want to point out that this first move is a biggie, right? It's going to set a little bit of the tone.
Yeah, that's right. I think it is a big move. In the past, Chair Powell has said that the start of rate cuts, he's called it consequential, right? Because it signals that the Fed, after fighting with inflation for 2 years, is content that it's moving in the right direction. And right now, particularly because we have greater concerns about the labor market, it's also a question of, what is the Fed going to be doing to make sure that we don't see the labor market cool more than it has, which is something that Fed policymakers are trying to avoid. Another big question is how big the cut will be. And I think that is something that markets have really been grappling with this week. And that's really the big question for the Fed as we head into this meeting.
Well, let's keep going there, Courtney. And I will point out here that the Federal Reserve in the past number of years has tried to make it really clear, and largely succeeded, I think, that we all, markets, observers, analysts, journalists, we all know what they are going to do before they do it. And this time, we kind of don't know what they're going to do.
I know. It's the first meeting in a long time where we genuinely do not know what's going to happen. Last time I checked the CME FedWatch platform, which calculates how futures markets are pricing in what the Fed will do, it was like a coin flip. It was like 50% chance that they'll do 25 basis point hike, or 50% chance that they'll go a little larger and do like a 0.5 percentage point cut. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty about what the Fed will do, how big they will go. And then we also get the summary of economic projections. And even there, we're going to learn a lot about what the Fed sees in the months ahead when it comes to rate cuts, inflation, and growth. So it's going to be exciting. Not that the other meetings aren't exciting. This is like super exciting.
Well, come on. We got to keep people interested in this. Hang on, because we're going to get to the exciting part in a minute. But Courtney, I do want to ask you just super quick, because people ask me, and I don't know the answer other than to say, I guess they just like round numbers. There's no reason they couldn't do like 0.3 of a percentage point, right? It's just a quarter or a 50 is like habit, right?
That's right. Okay. It's just like what they do. It would be weird if they didn't do one of those numbers.
But wouldn't you love them to have them just come out and say, yep, third, it's actually 0.37 today. Anyway.
Right in the middle.
Right. Amara, let me ask you this, though. Powell's presser. What are you, because look, there's Kremlinology and reading tea leaves and all that jazz. What are you going to be especially attuned for?
Yeah, so I think what I'm going to be looking for, and I think what pretty much everyone is going to be looking for, is a really clear explanation from Chair Powell about why they go whatever size they do go, right? Because if they go 50, I've been talking to a lot of economists and Fed watchers about this, like there is the risk that could be perceived as an overly negative signal, right? Like that the Fed is like really, really concerned about the labor market. And that's not what they have been really letting on recently. They've expressed concern, but they haven't said that they think the labor market is falling off the cliff, right? So if they go 50, people are really going to want to understand why they went 50. Like, what is the rationale for that? And if they go 25, there's going to be the other side with people saying, look, is that enough to support the labor market right now, given the risks that several Fed policymakers at this point have said they see to the labor market? So I think people are really going to be looking for Powell to really come out and clearly state how the Fed is thinking about this first move.
Neither of you two are going to be in the room for this press conference, but you have been in the past. And Courtney, I guess, without telling us what your first question would be, how do you think about framing things? Let's say Michelle Smith, the head of communications there, and sort of she'll listen to this and she'll hear me say this and say, no, Kai, that's not true. She's kind of the boss at the Fed. Let's say she calls on you for the first question. How are you framing it in your mind?
I think there's the list of questions you kind of are thinking about in the period between meetings. And so you have that in your head. And then there are the new questions that come up after you see the statement, the summary of economic projections. What might be interesting, maybe not the first question, but I'm curious if there's some drama this time around. We haven't had a dissent in a really long time. And this question of 25 or 50, it is kind of an opportunity for the committee to split a little bit. So I think I would be interested in hearing, which direction did the Fed go? And among the committee, was everyone in agreement that that is the right step? And people who wanted to go in a different direction, what was their reasoning for doing so?
Yeah, we should point out here, Amara, that you get half an hour between the release of the statement and the beginning of this press conference. So as you digest it in that half an hour, how do you think about framing your question? Yeah,
I think about sort of what are the questions beyond like the most obvious questions. And I think here for this meeting, I think we've kind of been here before, right? As we headed into this year, the Fed was signaling that it was feeling confident to start cutting. And then we saw inflation accelerate. And so a lot of the times I'm thinking about, okay, what are sort of the scenarios that the Fed is maybe not anticipating, or how would they respond if things don't evolve in the ways that they're anticipating that they evolve now? So that's a lot of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Courtney, just real quick on the way out here, summary of economic projections. People will hear it called the dot plot. 45 seconds, please, on why it matters.
Why it matters. Okay. Basically, it is this cool visual that lays out anonymously.
That's very geeky, a cool visual. But anyway, go ahead.
That lays out anonymously how Fed officials see interest rates evolving over the short term and, very interesting, the long term. I think, Kai, I love the neutral rate, which has been nudging higher. So we get like a little sneak peek into how officials are thinking about interest rates on a very cool graph. Doesn't get better than that.
It doesn't get better than that. We're going to do the neutral rate explainer next week. I think that's what's going to happen. Courtney Brown at Axios, Amara Mokwe at Bloomberg on a Friday afternoon. Thanks, you two.
Thanks, Kai.
Thanks, Kai.
Wall Street on this Friday. Traders are trying to read the tea leaves just like the rest of us. 1/4 point or 1/2 point. It will keep up until next Wednesday, I promise you. Details, numbers, y'all know the drill. More than 30,000 Boeing machinists walked off the job at midnight after voting down the company's contract offer. Now, what happens, though, to global aviation and to the world's #2 commercial plane maker, which has already been having a real tough year? Marketplace's Kaylee Wells is on that one for us.
This strike comes at a time when Boeing's already not meeting production goals, and it will effectively stop production on the 737 MAX jet. That's the model with the door that came off mid-flight in January, and 2 others crashed several years ago, killing everyone on board. Ryan Ewing is editor and founder of the aviation news site Airline Geeks.
Obviously, the 737 MAX stuff has created additional oversight by regulators, and then there's, obviously the quality control issues that have come as well.
So the strike is bad news for airlines that order the jets and the companies that make stuff that goes inside the planes, says Henry Hartevelt. He's an airline industry analyst with Atmosphere Research Group.
Fuselages, wings, landing gear, engines, seats, lavatories, galleys, overhead bins, everything like that, it is going to be affected.
The ripple effect could last longer than the strike itself, Hartevelt says, because those suppliers have to scale back.
And that contributes to the ability to get back to a normal production rate.
Most of us only interact with Boeing as passengers on their planes, and all this may not affect us much, says Bob Mann. He leads the aviation analysis and consulting firm R.W. Mann & Company.
Most customers don't know what type of aircraft they're flying on, even if there's a safety card right in front of them.
Boeing said in a statement that the company is ready to get back to the bargaining table. The union says its goal is to get a strong contract that meets its members' needs. I'm Kaylee Wells for Marketplace.
A year or two ago, when inflation was bad, dollar stores seemed to be set up for success because discount stores win when shoppers' wallets are strained, right? Now, though, Dollar General is seeing profits fade, and the company that owns Dollar Tree and Family Dollar plans on closing 1,000 stores. Marketplace's Kristen Schwab explains what is going on with these discount retailers.
Catherine Sneerly has been a devoted dollar store shopper for over a decade now. When she was a middle school Spanish teacher, she'd go to stock her classroom.
Pencil pouches, school supplies also, especially if kids came to school and they didn't have what they needed, I could just go to the dollar store and have some supplies on hand because all that money was coming out of my own pocket.
Today, Sneerly is a full-time content creator under the name Do It on a Dime. She shares organization and crafting projects, often with dollar store stuff, partly because of the price, partly because of the convenience. There's always a location near her in Charlotte, North Carolina.
There are a lot where I live. You can drive 10 minutes and get to a Dollar Tree, 15 maybe, depending on, if you're in a more rural area.
And that ubiquity, the sheer number of dollar stores out there, is actually part of their downfall. John Strong, a finance professor at William & Mary, says between Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Family Dollar, and Five Below, there's just too much competition.
Because now I've got 40,000 dollar stores in the country where I had 25,000 a decade ago. And so the same store sales are just not as robust as they used to be.
Dollar stores have tried to become more essential by selling groceries. Strong says something like 75% of what many stores sell is food. But in the meantime, affordable retailers have been expanding and stealing dollar store customers. Aldi plans on opening 800 locations in the next handful of years. Walmart, already the biggest U.S. grocer, will open 150, and its reach is growing with its subscription service, Walmart Plus.
Being able to order things from Walmart and have them delivered, within a day or two really does have an effect on dollar stores.
Another problem is that dollar stores pull in a narrow segment of shoppers who are mostly low income. Joe Feldman, a retail analyst at Telsey Advisory Group, says retailers like Family Dollar just haven't been able to capture the middle class.
Walmart and Costco and TJX and Ross and Burlington have all performed very, very well because the consumers are shopping at them more frequently in an effort to save money. They're just not trading all the way down to the dollar stores.
Feldman says that's partly because when it comes to unit price, dollar stores are not necessarily cheaper. For instance, a quick comparison of Dove soap bars puts the purchase at $1.25 per bar at Dollar Tree versus $1.15 at Costco. Plus, the Costco bars are bigger.
The pack sizes at dollar stores are smaller and designed around convenience. And, the price point of those packs are low in order to help the consumer to, stretch their dollars.
And that Dove soap bar, priced at $1.25, it represents another challenge for dollar stores. A lot of what they sell no longer costs $1. Some items go as high as $5. Sneerly, the content creator, says it makes shopping confusing.
You do have to be careful. Not everything is a better deal there.
She says the increases kind of erase her price references, her understanding of value.
I do have to walk into the dollar stores like now with a very heightened and keen awareness of what things cost other places, more so than I ever had to in the past.
And that kind of goes against part of what made dollar stores delightful. that shopping there felt kind of mindless in this way that might mimic what it feels like to not worry so much about money. I'm Kristen Schwab for Marketplace.
Coming up.
There ain't much here, so you got to eat where you can.
I mean, true, right? First, though, let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's up 297 today, just shy of 0.75%, finished at 41,393, did the blue chips. The NASDAQ added 114 points, 2/3%, 17,683. The S&P 500 gained 30 points, a little bit more than 0.5%, 5626. For the week, the Dow climbed 2.6%, the NASDAQ grew almost 6%, S&P 500 pocketed 4%. That strike at Boeing that Kelly Wells was telling us about helped drag shares in the plane maker down almost 3.7% today. Dollar store chains from Kristen Schwab. Dollar General rang up almost 1 9/10% today. Dollar Tree, which as I mentioned also owns the Family Dollar chain, increased 2 2/3%. Bond prices went up. The yield on the 10-year T-note fell 3.65% on the 10-year. You're listening to Marketplace.
The Numbers is supported by Odoo.com, your entire business on one platform. Marketplace is supported by Amazon Business, aiming to help save time by offering smart business buying solutions so there's more time to focus on growing the business and less time doing the admin. More at AmazonBusiness.com. And by You.com, using artificial intelligence to power workplace productivity. AI agents help with research, multi-step problem solving, and content creation. You.com, AI for you, your team, and your business. YOU.com. And by the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, a nonpartisan organization dedicated to raising awareness and accelerating action on America's fiscal challenges to build a brighter economic future for the next generation. Learn more at pgpf.org.
You're listening to Marketplace here on WBEZ. Thanks for joining us. I'm Melba Lara. WBEZ is supported by the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Museum and Library in Springfield, preserving Lincoln's legacy and telling diverse histories through interactive exhibits and historical artifacts. More at presidentlincoln.illinois.gov.
WBEZ's nonprofit spotlight is supported by Endeavor Health. North Shore, Edward Elmhurst, Swedish Hospital, and Northwest Community Hospital have come together to set a new standard for healthcare. Introducing Endeavor Health, a unified health system in the Chicago area, combining expert care with compassion. Your best health is our endeavor.
Just a heads up, the Edens is still shut down in both directions between Old Orchard and Dempster because of a crash. Massive delays on both sides approaching those closures. Right now, it's 85 degrees in Lake Station. It's 83 in Willowbrook. We have 84 degrees in Edgewater. Let's head back to Marketplace on WBEZ.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Rizdal. Sometimes when a product gets discontinued, it's pretty obvious why. The price was too high, or it cost too much to make, or maybe it just kind of stunk and was replaced by something better. I'm looking at you, Microsoft Zune. Sometimes, though, a product fails for other reasons that can tell us something a little bit deeper about this economy. Last year, Pepsi stopped making a lemon lime soda by the name of Sierra Mist. It was supposed to be Pepsi's answer to Sprite, owned by Coke, but never did quite get there. Marketplace's Matt Levin is on the product obit beat for us today.
Sitting in front of me are two identical-looking glasses of clear lemon lime soda over ice, prepared by my wife when I wasn't looking. One has Sprite, and the other a Sierra Mist I ordered off eBay that I think was more intended as a collector's item. Its sell-by date was June 2023.
All right, I'm going to taste this one first. All right, here's the one on the right. These taste incredibly similar.
The only real difference was the one on the left was slightly less carbonated, which I guessed was Pepsi's Sierra Mist, partly because of that sell-by issue. But that smoothness was actually a key to its early marketing.
So we were coming in the idea that Sierra Mist is a new brand, a new take on the flavor, and not kind of the burn that goes down when you drink a Sprite.
Bill Bruce was on the creative team at the ad agency BBDO in the 90s and 2000s. Back in 1999, Coke Sprite had about 60% of the lemon lime soda market. Bruce wanted to convince consumers a smoother Sierra Mist was more refreshing. So he brought a film crew to Alaska.
Off the boat, we had a crane. We strung 2 guys up, and we dropped them 35 feet from above camera into the glacier water.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Introducing a shockingly refreshing new lemon lime, Sierra Mist.
Shockingly refreshing became the tagline for the first Sierra Mist ads, which mostly had the same vibes, a funny scenario that often ended up with someone drenched in water. Pepsi spent tens of millions on the campaign.
They went with a straight, what I call product play.
But over at Coke, Sprite brand manager Daryl D.C. Cobbin wasn't overly concerned.
All about the taste of Sierra Mist and the refreshingness and the Sierras and all of that. They think they're going to unseat Sprite by talking about their product. They're going we're the better lemon lime strategy.
Cobbin knew that people under 30 made a huge chunk of lemon lime soda drinkers, and he had spent the last decade attaching Sprite to 2 things that increasingly resonated with that demographic: the NBA and hip hop.
Image is nuts. Look thirsty. Thirst is everything.
That was the hip hop group A Tribe Called Quest in one of the first Obey Your Thirst Sprite ads from 1994. Others featured the rappers KRS-One, Missy Elliott, Nas. When Cobbin first joined Sprite, the target demographic was a black urban audience, which the data showed made up a large share of lemon lime fans. But as hip-hop expanded to the white suburbs and beyond, Sprite became the fastest growing soda in the country.
Hip-hop became the vessel to carry that message around the globe.
In response to Sierra Mist, Sprite didn't change its marketing approach all that much. In the 2000s and 2010s, it kept inking endorsements from stars like Mos Def and Drake. Sierra Mist peaked at around 14% of the market. Sprite never dipped below 50%. And sure, hip-hop wasn't the only reason Sierra Mist failed to compete with Sprite. But look at how Pepsi is marketing its Sierra Mist replacement, Starry.
This Starry is mad good.
Thanks, boo.
Ice Spice?
Wait, who's that?
It's my ex lemon lime soda.
That's the Gen Z rapper Ice Spice in Starry's Super Bowl ad from earlier this year. She's running into an ex-boyfriend, a slightly older, corny-looking guy in a backwards baseball cap. It's clearly supposed to be Sprite, even if Pepsi's Michael Smith won't say so out loud.
Nobody wants to look like the washed-up uncle who's still trying to pretend that they're cool.
Daryl Cobbin, the Sprite brand manager from the 90s and early 2000s, actually sees some danger now in Sprite's decades-old marriage with hip-hop.
Classic hip-hop, amongst some younger, is considered dusty. Can Sprite become dusty? Sprite can become dusty quickly.
By the way, if you're wondering, I tried Starry too. It tasted a lot like the other lemon lime sodas. I'm Matt Levin for Marketplace.
Here's a data point on a Friday when going out for a bite to eat might be in your weekend plans. We, that is Americans, spent more than $500 billion in the first half of this year at what are categorized by the National Restaurant Association as, and this is a quote, eating and drinking places. Big cities, small towns, we love to eat out in them all. But in those small towns, local fast food joints are king. Take Eupora, Mississippi, or Citronelle, Alabama, and Adamsville, Tennessee. They've all got less than 4,000 residents, and they're all home to one particular fast food chain, Jack's Family Restaurants. As Corey Young explains now from Alabama Public Radio, for that fast-growing quick-service restaurant, rural towns are the secret sauce.
Roy Holly orders his favorite sandwich at Jack's Restaurant in Citronelle, Alabama.
the Big Bacon.
Will this be for here to go, honey?
It'll be for here.
All right.
He's an exterminator for a pest control company, and there are 7 Jack's restaurants in his rural territory. Holly gets lunch here a lot.
Probably once, twice a week, depending on where I'm working, what area I'm in.
On the other side of the dining room, Robert Jarvis is on his second meal of the day here at Jack's. He appreciates having this restaurant in the small town where he grew up.
There ain't much here, so you got to eat where you can.
Jack started in 1960 in Homewood, Alabama, near Birmingham. Today, there are 261 restaurants owned by a big private equity firm, though its jingle is less Madison Avenue and more of a nod to its southern roots.
You'll go back, 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 Jack, 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 for more, more, more. Jack's, all about the South.
Today, Jack's does open up new locations in big cities like Memphis and Huntsville, but about 45% of its restaurants are in small towns, populations of 7,000 or less. And that kind of rural footprint is unusual for quick-service restaurants. Scott Taylor is a food and beverage researcher with the University of South Carolina.
Typically, you want to be in fairly highly populated areas, right? Because that's where saturation is, it's where growth potential is.
But, he says, Jack's has a smart strategy.
There's lack of competition, there's really no saturation.
And small towns with limited dining options are eager to have a restaurant that opens early and closes late, 7 days a week.
But the beauty is somebody could come for breakfast and get a plate with, eggs, bacon, a biscuit and hash browns, and then come back at dinner and say they want chicken.
Todd Bartmus is Jack's Family Restaurant CEO. He says you'll only find Jack's in Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Georgia. And he says there's plenty of room to grow in rural communities there.
Our development strategy is we sort of just go to the next town out.
Each new restaurant brings about 40 new jobs to town. But most importantly, Jack's brings sales tax revenue for the community. Jason Stringer is Citronelle's mayor.
They were expecting to do $1.7 million a year in sales.
And some of that helps fill the town's coffers, even with the tax abatement that the mayor says the city gives Jack's. There's one more major ingredient in the Jack's expansion recipe: truck parking. Mike Holly, no relation to Roy Holly from earlier, is the third trucker in 20 minutes to pull up a big rig at the Citronelle Jack's. He's hauling cardboard boxes to chicken plants in Mississippi and stopped for lunch. Holly comes to Jack's mostly for the parking, but
They've got good food, good shakes, good ice cream.
And those good shakes add up to a lot of business. Jack's CEO says Jack's is on track to bring in more than $500 million in annual revenue in 2024. In Citronelle, Alabama, I'm Corey Young for Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Betterment, the automated investing platform that helps make it easy to be invested. Learn more at Betterment.com. Investing involves risk.
This final note on the way out today of interest to would-be home buyers among you. I mentioned last week the average 30-year fixed mortgage could be had at 6.35%. This week, says Freddie Mac, 6.2%. Again, that Fed rate cut is priced in. Our theme music was composed by B.J. Liederman. Marketplace's executive producer is Nancy Fargali. Donna Tam is the executive editor. Neil Scarborough is the vice president and general manager. And I'm Kai Ryssdal. Have yourselves a great weekend, everybody. We will be back on Monday. This is APM.
And this is WBEZ. All Things Considered is coming up next. Kamala Harris fixing her attention on battleground Pennsylvania, while Donald Trump is hitting the campaign trail in western states. We'll catch up with the candidates. Plus, a look at how climate activists are warning the government to warn the public about the health risk of gas stoves. And workers at a car parts factory in the southwest suburbs are raising the alarm over unsafe working conditions. Those stories coming up on WBEZ.
I'm Peter Sagal. Donald Trump shouldn't feel too bad about his debate performance. Hey, it turns out he got Taylor Swift to watch. Join us for the news quiz that everybody Swift to watch? Join us for the news quiz that everybody endorses. That's Wait, Wait from NPR. Saturday at 10 and again Sunday morning at 11 on WBEZ.
WBEZ Traffic is supported by Metra. With a full schedule and a variety of passes, riders can enjoy dining, museums, and concerts across Chicagoland. Tickets are available on the Ventra app. Drive less and do more with Metra. No improvement on the Edens, where both directions remain blocked between Old Orchard and Dempster because of a crash. Head west for your detour. Waukegan Road or the Tri-State Tollway are better options than Skokie Boulevard, which remains a mess. Inbound Kennedy heavy from the tollway to downtown. Outbound solid from downtown to Cumberland. This is WBEZ HD Chicago, WBEQ HD Morris, and WBEK Kankakee.
I'll be honest, I just want to retire. It's not worth to play the game. I haven't witnessed anything like I've seen that's happened to him 3 times.
What's the future of the Miami Dolphins star quarterback after his 3rd concussion in the NFL?
For Friday, September 13th, this is All Things Considered from NPR News.
I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Juana Summers. Coming up, immigration is not just a hot issue in the U.S. In France, we'll meet refugees who fled the war in Sudan.
And in Australia, there's a national debate about a plan to limit international students.
The number of overseas students at universities, and in particular the big universities in Australia, are at levels we've never seen before.
Later, a new book asks, what if we get it right on climate change?
Don't come at me with your sad face and just sit there. Like, figure out what you can do.
Plus new music after the news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Spear. Vice President Kamala Harris is in Pennsylvania today, a state she says she intends to spend a lot more time in. As NPR's Tamara Keith reports, it is shaping up to be a top-tier battleground.
On her 5th day in the state just this week, Vice President Harris says she is feeling good about Pennsylvania, though polls and her travel schedule indicate it's a tight race here. In Johnstown, Harris visited a small business, a bookshop, coffee shop, wine bar combo. It's in a county that former President Trump won handily in 2020, and Harris is now trying to cut into his margins by reaching out to voters in places where they don't often see Democrats.
I feel very strongly that you've got to earn every vote, and that means spending time with folks in the communities where they live. And so that's why I'm here. We're going to be spending a lot more time in Pennsylvania.
Outside, about 100 pro-Trump demonstrators gathered, along with a handful of supporters holding Harris signs. Tamara Keith, NPR News, Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
On the campaign trail today in California, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump promised if he returns to the Oval Office, he will begin expelling unauthorized immigrants, beginning with the Ohio city of Springfield. It's where Trump has claimed without evidence that Haitian immigrants have been eating people's pets. Former president said it would be one piece of a broader initiative.
We're going to have the largest deportation in the history of our country, and we're going to start with Springfield and Aurora.
In Aurora, Colorado, Trump has claimed gangs have taken over the city, something disputed by officials there. President Biden today, without naming him, essentially called on Trump to knock it off, saying the attacks need to stop. Gas stoves in California may soon come with a health warning label like those on tobacco products. NPR's Jeff Brady reports lawmakers recently passed legislation, and Governor Gavin Newsom has until the end of the month to sign or veto it.
That blue flame on a gas stove is a fossil fuel burning, and it releases pollution into homes. Research shows the big pollutant, nitrogen dioxide, can lead to asthma, especially in children. A hood that vents outside can help. California Assemblymember Gail Pellerin sponsored the legislation requiring a warning label on new gas stoves to alert